I know for sure, Kyle, I have put myself, this is a self-aware truth right here. I have put myself every single place I have ended up. It's been me. And I know that. So there might be a lot of, things that I might be, trying, and I'm enjoying this sort of self-aware moment as it is. So I would say be self-aware, take risks, calculated risks, and think about that. Think about that not trying is actually failing.
Designed to encourage, empower, and educate real estate professionals by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and this is Calibrate Real Estate. Broadcasting from the Mile High City, thank you for tuning in to the Calibrate Real Estate podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Our esteemed guest today is none other than Darren Franzen with Curator. Say hi, Darren.
Hello, hello.
All right, so Darren got connected with me and vice versa. I got connected with him through Jimmy Mackin, who's been a two-time guest on this podcast. Jimmy was a keynote speaker at an event that I hosted in Denver last year. And I also met Jimmy originally in Boston, Massachusetts through a connection with Eric Rollo, who's a Curator client. So we'll go, for those of you who don't know what Curator does, Darren's going to go through that. He is basically responsible for client acquisition. His official title is the Chief People Person with Curator. So Darren, let's talk about what your day-to-day lifestyle looks like as you're doing demos and you're talking to folks about Curator's platform as it relates to the success for real estate agents.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's fun, first of all, and I always lead with fun, and I start my calls that way. I say we're not allowed to be on the phone with each other for an hour unless we're going to have some fun. So the Chief People Person is really about making sure, first of all, you're allowed to create little titles for yourself when you're a startup. So, I think we actually stole it from Chris's title, who's a co-founder of Curator. He was the Chief Paper Killer at Dotloop when he was on their board. So you get away with that when you're a startup, but really seriously, my day-to-day role is to find the right clients. And that is important. It is, when Chris brought me on, he had built so much momentum, so much authority in the industry that really we had a line quadrupled around the block ready to get in. And when you're a private, little niche in the industry, I like to compare us to the Vegas club that nobody knows about. And, there's never a quadruple line because the right people typically show up. They were invited there, and then they're handpicked out of line, to actually come into this club. And it's funny, sometimes I will get the question, hey, Darren, who's a Curator, client? And I say, man, the people inside of the club don't let the people outside of the club know. You have to get in the club, and then you'll know right away what's going on in there. But yeah, that's my job, is to find the right clients, not just go find 15 clients today. Get on the phone, have an hour in-depth conversation about our product and how it relates to their goals, and does our product and services in line with their goals? What are their needs? Sometimes, Kyle, it's like, you tell me what you need the most help with, because we pretty much cover everything from start to finish. We're known as a marketing company because everybody needs better marketing. They need more reach. They need better exposure, more brand recognition. But yeah, we do everything. We build websites. We're not a website company. We have probably the most robust integrated CRM. We're not a CRM company. So we innovate our own tools on our own platform, and that's what uniquely separates us in the industry. We have things like Convert, which is an actual Curator product that is and it's proprietary to Curator clients. I think Chris thinks, if Salesforce wants the code, we may sell out for $1 billion or something. And of course we would do that tomorrow, but it's a special product. It's a whole algorithm throughout our system. It's a scoring system on the leads that basically serves up the leads that are most likely to convert in a dashboard and says, call these people. So yeah, I have a lot of fun explaining our product and taking the time that's necessary to do that. And sometimes my calls will go an hour and 40 minutes. And sometimes somebody will realize, wow, I can't even believe I've been on the phone this long. You know, and typically you're talking to the decision maker or the marketing manager, somebody that's busy, somebody that doesn't have a bunch of time to talk to a bunch of vendors. And that's one of the clear distinctions between Curator. We're not a vendor. We are a partnership. We are a technology partnership. There's a lot of vendors out there, and CRM companies and website companies and landing page companies, and hire this guy to do your face ads and hire this email tool. We're all integrated. We do all of that I mentioned, but we're more of a customized, personalized concierge service for your brand, for your market, for your price point. And then we develop a plan and we go for it.
I love all of that. And just to recap, Curator includes, they can build websites. They've got Facebook ad libraries, email libraries. They've got the Convert product. They've got landing pages, CRM, and then coaching. And it really becomes, like you said, this concierge of different things, like where can we meet you at your level of business and help you expand your business and make it more efficient. And that's the thing I love about technology. I think everybody gets all bent out of shape with tech, like, oh, what's it going to do? And Jimmy even commented that certain tech giants are like the boogeyman and people are all scared that it's going to take over their business. But technology is a tool. It's like a shovel. I mean, if you're a farmer and you're using a shovel or a rake, I mean, that's a tool. And so tractors shouldn't be looked at as something that are, you know, the farmer should be scared about. The tractor just makes his life a lot more efficient. He's not doing it all himself. You've now got horsepower behind that business that you're doing, and the agent is still at the center of the business. And I think that that's what Curator really does, is you step alongside people, and successful agents are able to be even more successful, more efficient. And most importantly, the thing I love about technology is you then have the data behind that success. So you can create metrics that are really important. So we didn't talk about this as we prepped, but I know it's a topic you want to talk about. Here's a question that one of Curator's clients asked. Now I'll say it's Brad Allen from Columbia, South Carolina. Brad is hosting our 30 under 30 reunion in a couple of months, and I'm helping him with it from afar. I'll be there emceeing the event. But the question that Brad asked all of the attendees, and these are 30 under 30 honorees by Realtor Magazine across almost 20 years. So you got a broad scope of very high profile, successful agents. And the question was, are there any topics you'd love for us to address or anything you'd love to see at next year's event? 94 people answered that. And littered on the first page is converting online leads to actual buyers. Technology continues to surpass my business, and also interested in video tips. Technology and current best practices, new technology tools, CRM database management, new technology tools to use and stay relevant in today's market. And that's just the first page. I only got through 24 of these, and I'm looking at the next one, highlighting tech, latest education, and networking opportunities. So the whole point is, I think agents realize that technology needs to be an integral part of their business, and that's where Curator steps in. So as you're having an information gathering meeting with someone over the phone, a client that you're wishing to acquire, what are some of the things that you talk about and how Curator can help with technology?
Sure. Well, you have to have mindset for growth and innovation. You have to push. You really have to look at the industry's problems and try to solve something. They're there. The problem isn't a website or a CRM or a Facebook ad or anything like that. I think a lot of times it is actually having a system that's customized to your brand. And I really truly feel like Curator someday will basically grow personal brands with our system. Like we will bring on, at one point, and we still look at small business opportunities today as a very isolated opportunity to work with, a car dealership or a personal brand. And we do have those clients. Eric Thomas, he was a keynote speaker at our conference last year in Austin. I mean, the guy had everybody in tears. He's a motivational speaker. Eric Thomas. If you guys want to check out a website, it's ET Inspires, and he's a curator client. So I do feel that mindset, we push that mindset when clients hire us. I think the technology is really kind of the base layer, and then what you do in social, what you do with Instagram, what you do with retargeting, that becomes a mindset, because the ROI isn't, very quickly defined. And believe me, Jimmy will tell you, we make data-driven decisions, and we are a data analyst company. More than, we A and B test everything. You want to talk about nuances of, well, what if we just take that word out? What if we just make that blue? Just like the change of the size of the call to action button and move it over. Like, Chris, when you want to talk about somebody that never stops, that has so much passion for every aspect of the system and it working well and taking advantage of the A and B testing, that data is crazy. So we are very, very technology driven, but I would really say the mindset and kind of outside of the box, and that's more of our why we get clients to have these crazy breakthroughs in growth. I don't really think it's the technology. I think it's more mindset and innovating into other platforms, being an early adopter. Things like that is where that's in line with a curator client. Believing in Instagram right now before, somebody on stage has to tell you a year from now. Coming into our culture very quickly defines, we're going to push. We're going to be looking for platforms, where you're not going to be questioning ROI. You're going to thank us later because you're getting all these DMs now, that you never thought you would get, And so I think that's where we're more aggressive. We have, quasi millennials as our, Jimmy is not 40 years old yet. Chris turns 40 next year. I'm the old guy at the company, by the way. I'm 45. I'm the old guy at the company. I think we may have 1 or 2 employees older than me. All right, maybe 3 or 4, seriously. But yeah, I think really, Kyle, it's a culture thing. It's a mindset. Our clients that hire us, they become part of a community that is unmatched. They're in the industry. It's unparalleled when it comes to these noisy groups that you can get into, and you really don't know if the advice, if somebody's being skinned on the back. There's a lot of that, and there's a lot of great advice out there. But it's just harder to kind of dig through that and find that through the noise. We have a culture. It's actually a private Facebook group. It's a mastermind, a secret Facebook group that our clients become part of. And this blows me away. I have clients at our conference come up to me and say, man, when are you guys going to start charging $1,000 a month for that mastermind? Don't do it. But we're wondering when you're going to, because the other day we asked Melissa about this legal question and she got right back to us. Or the other day we talked to Tim and he gave us this whole listing presentation. That's something that would have taken us a month. So you're getting collateral and assets from top teams all over the country in Canada that are pushing. They're doing it differently. They're doing client concierge events you've never even fathomed. The whole day for the Easter, renting out the whole park with, balloon people and, obviously getting them to sign off because there's liability, right? I need first name, last name, email, phone number, I need all this right? And I get 1,500 people to register. Who cares if I spend 10 grand on it for that day? And we have clients that tell those stories on stage, and it's just a different way of doing business altogether. So I think that Chris has a comment, technology gets ubiquitous, like all of a sudden everybody has websites and everybody has this. And, you kind of, you compare it to like a hotel bragging that they have clean sheets, so the technology is just kind of that layer. And so, yeah, I think it's some of those other, more progressive, more aggressive approaches to growing businesses that really separates us.
Yeah. And as far as Jimmy Mackin and Chris Smith are concerned, both co-founders of Curator, and you've mentioned them a couple of different times. And I think it's important to talk about your start with becoming integrated with them. And it wasn't at Curator. For a lot of people that know Curator as a startup that's making some very appropriate waves in the business, you all met at different spots in your journey. And I know that you and Chris met when you were at Top Producer, and you were actually there before he was. So let's talk about that. And then also, I think there's a very important storyline as you talk about sales. You've had a career in sales, and what Chris was doing at Top Producer to really revolutionize and make it very efficient with that sales group that was within Top Producer.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's a great story. I, like you said, career sales guy. You know, I was playing a little golf in college, and definitely wasn't going to transfer to a 4-year school. And I was working in the restaurant business, and my dad was a career sales guy. My dad retired successfully from 35 years, 40 something years of sales. And so when my dad hit me up and said, "Hey, Darren, you know, this restaurant thing is fun, but now you're looking at restaurant management. Hey, you want to get into sales?" And I was probably 20 years old. I don't even think I could have a drink legally, you know, because you get into sales and that becomes part of it. So I remember that. I remember like, no, whoa, I can't go to the bar after. So that, you know, and that lasted for about 10 years. It was an amazing ride. And then, I actually moved to Utah to start a business with my brother-in-law. That lasted for about 19 months. It was crazy successful, actually. We were in this community. I'm not Mormon. My brother-in-law was not Mormon. Bless the Mormon community. If I still lived in Utah, I'd be Mormon. I know it for sure, because it's such a powerful community, and I'm all about that. But to overcome that obstacle in sales, cold calling, knocking on doors, you think it's hard to just talk to a person? Talk to somebody that immediately asks you what ward you're from. And when you don't even know what a ward is, you know, you're not going to close a deal there. You're barely even having a conversation. But with tenacity and persistence and effort, after about 6 months, I started to get these clients, and I was there for 19 months. So really we had this awesome momentum at about the 19-month mark. And my wife at the time was working for a California company that offered her a promotion to move back. And the carrot they dangled was so good, you would be just a complete idiot not to pack up your stuff and move back to California. So we did. And I wasn't working, and I had my resume out there, and I got recruited by Move Inc., who owns Top Producer, Realtor.com, back at then Welcome Wagon, 5th Street, Rizzi, you know, all these companies. And so I just joined this sales force. I mean, they had 26 reps all over the country. And most, I was just Northern California, but most reps had a 2-state territory. So when Chris was hired, I think he very quickly realized, well, if this guy is willing to go to this other state, then he's probably willing to go to this state and this state and this state. So I think and with our manager at the time, Steve Passanelli, who's a good buddy of mine and the CMO for Bomb Bomb, Chris and Steve were basically kind of running the show because they were the top producers at Top Producer. They were instantly selling the most. I mean, Chris in his first year, President's Club, you know, I mean, he you know, everybody was basically wondering what to do because Chris was making everybody look bad. And I mean, he was that good and still is today. And he's very one of the very few guys, I'll say something about Chris, Curator, co-founder, that very rarely do you find somebody that is an amazing salesperson, maybe one of the best I've ever met, and able to completely geek out and get very technical and get over on this side. And somehow he does both. So that's really what makes him a technology savant in my mind, because I draw the line when it comes to copying and pasting this code and whoa. You know, I'm my job is to have a conversation with somebody, and if that copy and paste doesn't go right, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole of 3 hours later, and then I'll be throwing laptops across the room. So, so basically, you know, Chris came into our channel, and within about a year, the channel changed to being very small, very only the top producers, those that were willing to work harder, those that wanted to make more money and travel more. So Kyle, my territory went from Northern California to Oregon, Washington, Northern California also, but Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Alaska, and Hawaii was my territory. So I made sure that I went to Alaska a couple times. I made sure I went to Hawaii a couple times, which I did. It was fantastic. Took my golf clubs and had a great time. So yeah, Chris came in and very quickly became a speaker. He created Tech Savvy Agent. He became, you know, an authority in the industry through Tech Savvy Agent. Basically, you ask anybody in the industry now, you know, have you heard of it? A lot of hands will go up in any forum and any conference. And then the next question is, did it help your business? And the answer is always yes, because they were tips and tricks and do this and use a landing page and say this in your email. And it was all free. It was through a blog called Tech Savvy Agent that was created while Chris and Steve and I were all working at Move and Realtor.com. So it was really, you know, how quick is Chris going to go to that next level? And that was what I was wondering the whole time. And sure enough, he did, and went on, and then his career flourished. And I lasted until basically the middle of 08 or the beginning of 09, and actually just took some time off to raise my daughter at the time. And then that was the transition. I worked for a buddy, Jim Marks, who with Virtual Results sold some really expensive websites for about a year. And then I was taking time off again, and Chris called me up and basically said, hey, you know, I got this company. Remember, I was always going to start a company. And I was saying, yeah, I'm the one who told you to, you know? and so, yeah, I got about 60, 70 employees. And you know, the first thing I asked him was, you know, is this something that's a couple $100 a month or a couple thousand? And he said, couple thousand. I said, I'm in. So, and you know, 6 years later, so here we are.
Oh, I love that. And I know that Jimmy and Chris had a YouTube show where they basically would just drink a beer and sit and talk about marketing. And so the idea of all of these concepts that Curator uses really were things that they were testing and proving out for free on blogs and YouTube shows. And they proved that that worked, and they've now created this great experience. And I've got several friends in the real estate industry that are clients that are raving fans. I mean, you don't have to ask who's inside the walls. They're running out saying we're part of the Curator brand. And one of our podcasts earlier this year was Stephanie Lanier, who won Pitch Fest for Curator. And she talked about what that experience was like. And it's just, it sounds like it's just such a great institution and organization to be around. I've got to park for just a second and say, what's it like being in the tech industry? I mean, you have all these concepts and ideas. I mean, you're wearing a Curator t-shirt, you're in California. I mean, what's it like being in the tech world? It's got to be kind of fun and just kind of wild, right?
Yeah, it's, I was born and raised in Cupertino. So I've seen it all happen around me. It's crazy. Now, one thing, it's fun, and you hear like our local news is about Google, is about Apple, is about the networking companies. I mean, Intel, Microsoft, you name it. I mean, Twitter, of course, is downtown San Francisco. And so whenever there's a ribbon cutting, or there, you know, Salesforce's new building, it's a disruptor. I mean, one of the things that you will realize is that if you're trying to get from point A to point B and Apple's in the middle, the actual spaceship Apple, you just need to be conscious of that. You need to be very thoughtful of, you know, the new Amazon wing or the eBay campus that is throwing a party, or, you know, so it's awesome. But you do need to be conscious of it. So thank God I work from home. I think Jimmy, one time we actually had a sales retreat in San Francisco, and we Airbnb'd a house there, a $4.5 million house that you wouldn't think, and you look at this little skinny thing and you're just like, wow. And then you get up to the top floor and you see the views and you say, okay, I get it. But like $800-900 a night for this Airbnb, you know, and we all get up there. So, you know, it's been one of those things where, you know, now I look back on it and it's just gone incredibly quick. And I see these campuses, how everything fits in. It's amazing. Now, one thing I will say is that it's very competitive. If I was an engineer, like my buddies are, they are commandeered by these other companies. They are, you know, that's a nice way of putting it. I mean, they are recruited. That's not really the real word. They are, yeah, there is back channel stuff going on to find employees and bring them from Cisco over to whatever, and pay them double. Like, they're going to make more money. But there's some interesting things going on where there's so much competition. And I laugh about it because I've lived here all my life. So when I meet people at my daughter's school and you'll get in this conversation, and then immediately you start to feel this vibe that unless you can help them in some way, you know, they kind of look over your shoulder. You know, it's like old school high school stuff, you know, like, I'm done with you, you know, I'm looking over your shoulder for the next person. So it is very competitive like that, you know. You know, a lot of NDAs are signed, a lot of, you know, things where they're, you know, you're at a party and, you know, next thing somebody gets a little bit loose about the new product release over there at Facebook, you know. What did say that again? What's coming up? So yeah, it's fun. My ex, and I'm a happily divorced. I know you guys like to cover adversity a little bit. You know, that's my only story is in this adversity is basically had my daughter, you know, my ex and I decided to be best friends and be co-parenting versus a couple, and she works at Facebook. So she's like, you know, I go to all the field trips. I take my daughter to school late. I pick her up early. You know, I bring her bearded dragon to class, you know, but I'm still not the cool dad because her mom works at Facebook. So yeah, I deal with the tech sort of area. It just goes on around me. I just want to build Curator because I really do feel a responsibility to building Curator. I think there's a transition in sales where, you know, you go from producing for yourself to feeling like you're responsible to do what you can because you're capable. And I think that's an important part of growth. And that happened to me about 1.5 years ago. It really happened at our conference when I was having so many emotional conversations with these clients that were talking about things way beyond 114 sides and 203 million. It was about starting foundations that they've always wanted to start because so-and-so in their family was sick or passed away early from this or is dealing with this, or even on the pet side, you know, they're going to start some foundation, you know, for like, wow, like that just hit me. Like, we're building things big enough where not only are people thinking differently, they're doing things impacting their local community and maybe even bigger through a foundation. Like, that hit me right there. And so then at that point I said, okay, you need to do what you're capable of. You need to really, and I'm still not there yet. I'm still pushing and learning and you know, it's a daily grind, right? But no, I love it. It's never going to stop, man. This area, it never stops. You know, I'm hoping there's some like underground traffic thing that Elon put in that we don't know about, you know, and he's just going to say, it's going to be a pay to play like Facebook. It's going to be like, okay, well, you know, if you're willing to pay for this, there's this underground system where you know, but yeah, it's, I stay at home, man. So the only time I leave the house is between like 10 and 2, like that's it, you know?
I love it. You know, it's so interesting that you talk about the social awareness that real estate agents have because our businesses are hyper local for the most of us. We've got people that we have the ability to impact. And so as a larger, more global company, and certainly a tech company, you see and feel that from the front lines when you're talking with successful agents, and their reasons for meeting with you, their reasons for talking with you are so that they can continue to expand their reach, so that they can do more for their community, or that they can continue to expand their reach and do it in an efficient way so that they're not trying to, pull all the levers and push all the buttons and never get to see their family because they're trying to grow this business and scale it. And you become their power partner as a technology partner, but also an efficiency partner. And I just love that.
It's quality of life.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's very important to share that while Curator may be a partner to the realtor, you're in sales. And we said that at the beginning. And I think that's very important because you're doing what every single one of us is doing, in that you're working on acquiring clients. And you've had a lot of experience in that. We spoke about the conversion code, the book over your shoulder there. And I know you've got a copy of it in front of you. Let's talk more about the concepts of funnels in the conversion code by Chris Smith of Curator. So let's talk about that and see how that really relates to the sales process, because I want to get tactical. I want to get granular. And Darren, I know that you're in the trenches, just like we are on a daily basis, working to expand a noteworthy and noble brand. So let's talk about the funnel concept in conversion code.
Sure. Yeah, it's a fun concept. It's based at the top of the funnel. If you look closely, there's a bunch of stuff there that's Facebook and Twitter and phone calls and text. And so like, how do you get stuff into your funnel is up to you. You can put Zillow leads and Trulia and Realtor.com leads, and you can buy leads, of course, and put them in your funnel. But the bottom line is you're going to have to convert those leads at the highest rate possible. Ultimately, you're getting on the phone with people. And what I like to think about is, if your marketing isn't good, it's going to be a way harder conversation. So I know, Kyle, when I get on the phone, I know our marketing has got them to the point where they're so intrigued, they're interested, they're a little bit thirsty to know what's happening, because we're a little bit ambiguous on our website. It's a ton of stuff. Like, you could spend a lot of time on curator.com and still get on the phone with me and say, I need you to walk me through how a lead is generated, what happens to the lead once it's generated, where do they go, what's the experience, how do you convert them, and how do I know who to call? And there's a lot of ways that happens, of course, but the marketing by and large, I think, is what's more important than anything. So we've really looked at that as a pillar for anybody looking at growth wants better marketing. And if you're going to eventually have to get on the phone with people, that your marketing, if it's special, if it's different, if it's classy, if it's attractive, if it's reaching the right people with the right message, backing up your brand, these conversations are going to be that much easier. So at the end of the funnel, you see close more sales. And that's not Curator. We're not a ISA company. We're not a we're not a concierge get on the phone. Maybe someday, maybe we will have that division someday. But for now, we're just getting the leads to the point where it's obvious you should call them. The way I look at it, Kyle, is if I take any realtor, if they've just got their license or they've been in the business 10 years, and I put them in a room with 100 people and I say, who needs real estate help? Raise your hand. And 6 people raise their hand. I mean, imagine if we had 6 realtors, they'd all run, but that's what it is. It's like these 6 people are raising their hand, and that's at the end of the funnel for us. So we always look at, you get them into the funnel. Okay. And that's our job too, to help our clients generate massive amounts of leads through Facebook ads, targeted, using the right message, using the right techniques with proper registration and frictionless registration. And you really have to think of that nowadays. You can't just generate leads without thinking of the experience, and is it a pain for them to give their name and their email and their phone number, first of all, they're not going to give you any of that info anyway. So, you know, how do I get this person into my funnel? And you have to be better now than ever. You know, we coach on every aspect of the business. You know, you're out in the field and you meet somebody, you need to be entering them in. I mean, you know, you don't want to be super cheesy and, okay, let me enter you in right now. But, you know, it is kind of that world where you do have an opportunity to exchange info, right? Hey, I want to send you some amazing info that you'll never find online. You know, you'll never find this on Zillow. You know, that's not MLS data. What's MLS? Oh, that's, you know, something I'm licensed to, right? That's different data. Oh, I didn't know that. Now you become an educator. Now you're more of an authority. That person goes and tells 6 other people about that Zillow's not, you know, the bottom line when it comes to real estate. So yeah, this whole funnel approach, the comparison that I give is that every single person is an internet lead right now. They're online, so they're susceptible to funnels. And unfortunately, if for anybody out there that is expecting the referral deal, like you're literally, you know, banking your numbers based on somebody that's told you they're going to do business with you. You know, hey, Darren, you know, I'm working with you. I just need about 3 weeks, you know, and then we want to list our house. Well, if in a week a curator client is in that market and a Facebook ad runs in front of that person and you click on my ad and all of a sudden you see this amazing experience and this website and this follow-up and all this great innovation and technology, you may actually think twice about you know, your friend that you are going to work with without entertaining, you know, something else. So yeah, it is. There's funnels everywhere, and you know, be careful which ones you wind up in. I always say sometimes I purposely go into funnels. You know, I not only want to see the experience, excuse me, but I'm doing it because I want those products or those services. I might not want it right now, but I'm okay with you sending me stuff and following up with me. And I do want to see what the experience is, kind of like Amazon. Like, yes, they used to make me mad. Now I sort of like appreciate when they remind me of stuff I didn't buy. You know, things change.
Well, Darren, you mentioned you had some restaurant experience, and I did as well. And every single one of us that's listening to a podcast like this has been to a fancy restaurant for a special occasion, and your server provides incredible customer service, which is a sale. Now, you still get to choose as the customer, but they're telling you what the specials are. They're telling you what items on the menu they love and they've tried. They've gone through the wine list, and that's part of the process. So we all talk about sales like, oh, it's like scummy or slimy, or like, I don't want to be sold, and don't come here selling me something. But the reality is every single one of us loves to be sold if it's done the right way. And if it's done in such a process where you're like, you know what, you get me, and I'm going to then be that output at the bottom of the funnel. Something I'd like to share, you and I haven't talked about this yet, but a book that I really enjoy is a book that was written a couple of years ago about business and about leadership, and it's called Entreleadership. It's by Dave Ramsey. It was a book that he had as a New York Times bestseller and started being advertised as a podcast when podcasts are really starting to become popular. And the first chapter of this section of the book on page 97 is called Pour Your Customer Through a Funnel. And I want to read it, not because it's boring, but I want to read it because it accentuates your point. So Dave says, when you first start your business, you normally start with just one product or service. We all have a great idea that strikes us like lightning, and we take off running into the marketplace. That passion and energy is great, and it is how great companies are born. As you get your first product working, you should be very strategic and thoughtful about the further development of other product lines. A great way to build a loyal and continuously growing customer base is to build a line of products and services using the funnel approach. And he continues to say the funnel approach is simply having some inexpensive or free or quick ways to interact with your company. The quicker and cheaper the product or service, the more people you will draw. This can be as simple as having lots of quality content that the customer can get for free on your website. Then you develop a product that's a little bit more cost and take a little bit more time, and then you continue to go down the funnel. So he talks about different product lines in the funnel approach. And I think also it's important to say that in the customer journey, someone, as they're buying a product, whether it's expensive or inexpensive, is naturally going down a series of funnels, and Curator has multiple ways of doing that for people. And it starts with Facebook ads. It starts with online content and copy, and really positioning your website, because a website's not unique, but the things you say on it can communicate clearer. And when they communicate clearer, people want to work with you because they make it less difficult to interact with you. So I think it's really important that you guys have this thought process behind the brand. And I think it's really important for people as they think about consuming your content, they understand that you're very strategic about how to get good qualified leads. And then one other thing I want to chat about before we end our show is the concept of an ISA. You mentioned that a handful of minutes ago about the ISA service. And that's something that I think there's a lot of real estate companies that are using and implementing, and sometimes doing well, sometimes doing badly. I know from working with Jimmy that Curator does a great job of working with ISA. So let's talk about that acronym, what it means, and then also what a great ISA, because you shared with me you've got a phenomenal ISA, and what that means for you.
I do. What's up, Amber? The thing is, it's a relationship, and I think it has to be built, the right way. You can't force it. You can't speed it up. It has to be organic. It has to be real. So it really starts with the person that you can legitimately feel like, if I invest my time into this relationship, into this person, it's going to pay off exponentially, tenfold, more than I could ever, if I put this person in a cookie cutter box and try to train them, and X number of calls and micromanaging, and it just doesn't work. So ISA, inside sales associate. And I think the sales part of that is missed a lot. You think of an ISA as a body, like put them in the chair and give them the list, and here's the CRM and add the notes. But the sales part of it is so key. And I know that, of course, tone and changing your tone and all of this. So when I first met Amber, the first thing I did with her is started having amazing conversations about everything. Because if it was just work, if it was just me telling her what she's going to say on the phone, and of course, I know she's going to repurpose what I say. She's going to regurgitate it in her own. That's Amber. And thank God for Amber, because I knew right in my mind that she would do it in her own tone, with her own swagger. We like to, it's the humble bravado. It's the, we know we're good, and this is why. We may not be for you, but you've already checked some of the boxes. You've already checked the team and the production, and you've already checked, you've come to us, you called us. So we don't bug a lot of people with phone calls that they don't want to get. And fortunately, we're busy enough where that just doesn't make sense for us to do anyway. We do have a very high level of Curator now called the agency, where I am probably going to strategically, in a concierge mode, kind of feel obligated to go to some of these teams that could really use this agency level of Curator. And that is brand new, by the way. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say it. So there's basically 3 levels of Curator.
You heard it here first, folks.
You are. Sorry, Jimmy. Sorry, Chris. No, it's we already have clients signed up for it. So it's really a remake of a product we had already called Revamp. And it's a way to get an ongoing revamp of everything you do, whether it's your follow-up, whether it's your brand, whether it's your website, no matter what it is. So it's a small team within Curator that's helping those clients. So yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, because the ISA topic is one that, someone's just banging out cold calls, to unqualified leads, to people who don't want the product, and they get frustrated, or they're ill-trained, ill-equipped. And I love your concept of that humble bravado. NFL player and coach and now analyst and author Tony Dungy calls it quiet strength. And I love that, where you can tell someone's got that confidence, that they're sure of themselves, but it feels so natural. And I love that concept of humble bravado. Okay, wrapping up our show here. My favorite question, Darren, I'll ask it to you as I've asked many others. I think that the road to success is often paved with failure, with some setbacks, some car crashes, if you're using the road analogy, or you're broken down on the side of the road with a radiator that needs to cool down. So what are those moments for you? And to frame the question, it's through this concept of Dear Younger Me, which is a popular song. And the concept is you're writing a letter to yourself. You mentioned that you're in your mid 40s and you work around a lot of other folks that are in their early 20s. And what is that advice that you wish you knew when you were 22? What's the thing that you would say as you're writing that letter, Dear Younger Me, as you're maybe communicating what you wish you knew when you're in your 20s?
Not trying is actually failing. It really is. It's so simple and so true and so self introspective, right? Gary Vaynerchuk, GV, self-awareness. And, for those that don't know GV, he endorsed Chris's first book called People Work. He wrote the foreword to it. He's an amazing, do you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
Yeah, make sure that if you're a family audience out there, I would encourage you to be very careful around Gary V, because he is definitely uncensored. But Gary V has sort of revolutionized digital marketing, and he did it because he was helping his dad with the wine library, this company in New York that he sold wine, and he was part of this process where he said, how are we going to get our wine store to sell more things online? And that's basically where VaynerMedia came up. So yeah, it's incredible.
It is. He's turned himself into a businessman, I think, through trying, through let's see if this sticks. And a lot of stuff he's done is stuck. And, he's definitely, he's into the younger crowd now, trying to get them to think that way. You are failing if you're not trying. And finally, in my 40s, I'm just thinking wow, I am kind of concerned about what my mom would think about what I say on a podcast. I am kind of concerned, and not that I shouldn't be. I should be, but it shouldn't stop me from doing something. It shouldn't stop me from taking an idea and trying to, do something with it, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a video, whether it's a Facebook, whatever. And it just sort of is resonating with me now more than ever, because I do have a lot of ideas. And I think I sort of in this prime stage where I have a lot of experience, but then I also feel like I have some time left, so I feel like I can combine the two, where, I couldn't take GV's advice 5 years ago. I heard it, but I for some reason just wasn't ready, so if I had to go back into my 20s, I just would be a lot less, better safe than sorry, all those cliches, that are real, kind of stay in your lane, and you don't really know what the other lane is like if you don't go over there and check it out. I mean, you may need to come back or whatever, but yeah, I think, I was, having fun at restaurants and playing golf and, living my life, and got family and girlfriend, it was just one of those modes where when I think back on it, wow, I was living in sort of that era of, if I would have started the podcast in my late 20s, now I would be 15 years in. But being self-aware, I don't know that would have went very well. I really, thinking back on it and what I've been through, which has been great experiences and And, you know, I'll tell stories to people sometimes that sound like a movie, you know, or sound like they're made up. And I'm just saying, no, my brother really did crash this truck into the swimming. I'm just giving you the facts of how he crashed the truck in the swimming pool, ran back home, changed his clothes, and never got in trouble for it. You know, so I've lived this, you know, pretty cool, you know, kind of crazy life, but I know for sure, Kyle, I have put myself, this is a self-aware truth right here. I have put myself every single place I have ended up. It's been me. And I know that. So there might be a lot of, you know, things that I might be, you know, trying, and I'm enjoying this sort of self-aware moment as it is. So I would say be self-aware, take risks, calculated risks, and think about that. Think about that not trying is actually failing.
Oh, I love all of that. And it's so true. And it's a testament to why I do the podcast. I've had these conversations with people for over a decade and a half now, 15 years of being in the real estate industry after graduating from college with a degree in finance. And I'd find that I have all these conversations with people kneecap to kneecap, over coffee, over lunch. We'd have these phenomenal discussions with business owners or influencers in the industry. And I'm like, man, more people need to hear this. Or you know, I feel like someone else needs to learn from that, because I'm having these just very authentic, very real conversations. And I started to realize that not everybody does. And so this medium, and it started years ago, but it's become improved with this latest version of my podcast, is basically to do that, where it's most people are not going to be able to know who Darren is. Most people are not going to be able to immediately understand what curator is. And now you can sit for 45 minutes without anyone pitching you. You're just sitting here listening to us have a conversation. It's very conversational. And now you learned more. And I think that in technology, in our technology age, that ideas are our new currency. I think that the ideas that we have, that we run with and we implement, and Stephanie Lanier, who's a curator client that we talked about earlier, her concept in the podcast we recorded is create the things you wish existed. It's this idea, if it's not out there, we're in a world right now where this is not top down level, like the stuff you used to see in the 60s and 70s in business. You can go right now and create it. And if you're 20 and you're used to living like a college student, one of the things that Gary Vee and Mark Cuban and several other thought leaders say is continue to live like a college student and stop trying to act like you're something different than you are. Be humble, ask questions, have curiosity, and just go for it, because you may not have the same level of risk as a 20-year-old that you do as a 40-year-old with a daughter, and you're thinking about college and, you know, how you keep all these different things, all these responsibilities together. So I think it's phenomenal to have that advice for someone to hear that in their 20s. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's really important.
Yeah, it's pretty much stolen advice, you know, but it impacts me, you know, it does. And I agree, man. This industry, there's a lot of outlets out there, you know, and I've heard the same thing over and over again. So I think it's great that this exists, because it reminds me of, you know, we would always encourage unique content. The blogging, it's not just because you're going to try to get leads and SEO. No, it's you, and you own it. And it's your thought on an actual digital medium that's going to last forever. I mean, the word blog comes from web log. So it's the B on web with log. So you're logging stuff on the web, you know? So how cool is that you're allowed to do that almost like for free, basically, right? It's sweat equity. So yeah, it is that era where you're almost obligated to digitally document what you're thinking, because you have a family behind you and a family behind that. And all of this stuff is going to exist digitally forever, maybe. And think about how cool that is, you know, like it just feels like I'm almost obligated to make videos for my daughter that she doesn't know about, that she can watch when she's in her 40s, you know? I mean, just things like, and I've done that when she was 2 and 3 years old. I would make these audio recordings, and I still have them today that I've never put on a podcast because I want to add the text. And it is the sweetest conversations you've ever heard, you know? I mean, I'll talk to her about golf, and she has no idea what golf. She's 2 and 3 years old, and I'm telling her what a birdie and what a par and what eagle is, you know? and it's just fun. So yeah, I have all that digital documented stuff, man. So it is a great era that we live in for sure.
I love that. I think it's a great way to end the show. And I'm glad you brought that up about your daughter, because I think of my grandfather, who's 97, and one of my heroes, someone who's very intelligent, was a patent attorney for the US government, and was such an encourager for me. All of my conversations with him were always affirming and lifting me up, and they were words of encouragement. And I wish that I had a lot of those conversations on tape, where I wish I had some of that advice that I could just plug into, because his memory's starting to fail him a little bit now, and he's still with it. He can still remember stuff about the Boston Braves in the 1930s or whatever the heck it was. But some of the more topical, some of the more relevant stuff, you just don't get to talk to Papa Charlie the way that you used to. And I think, and I hope that I'm in my mid 90s at some point in my life. But if I'm not, I know that my 3 kids, at a very minimum, will be able to dial this back up and say, there's Dad doing what he loved. There's Dad communicating with people and encouraging people and talking about interesting things. And I know for me, 15 years from now, I'm going to listen to this and be like, wow, that was kind of interesting that I was thinking about that at that time. So Darren Franzen, this has been phenomenal. Curator is a company out there that's designed to help people in the real estate profession, but it's a digital marketing firm that helps folks outside of real estate. And so how do people connect with you? How do people understand the brand better? And what's the best way to reach out to Curator?
Sure, definitely curator.com. And it's, we had to mess up the spelling to get the domain. so
Curaytor.
Exactly. And, the company has been named Curator since the beginning. So the initial idea, everybody, should know, or probably has heard the word curator. Like, I don't know what happens, when you're shopping for a car, all of a sudden you start to see the car you're looking for all the time. Right. So I hear the word
selective perception.
Man, Kyle, I hear the word curator all the time, and it's not for the art museum. It's like the news guy is talking about the gal that curated the weather. I mean, it's being used a lot, but the old school term is for that person that would be responsible for picking what artwork actually goes on the wall. So they're curating, they have rooms full of artwork, and they're the one that's going to be responsible for actually what is hung on the wall, so that people that come in have that experience. So Curator, was this, we'll pick out the technology. There's so many shiny objects for you guys to pick out. We will curate the best CRM, the best this, the best this. You focus on real estate. You let us focus on shiny objects and curating the right stuff. And so yeah, www.curaytor.com and /Darren Franzen, I think, or in the bio in there, my phone number, email, of course. Thanks to my mom, Darren, Darin, 1 R with an I. I love it when they ask, at Starbucks or whatever, because they're never right, But yeah, DARIN at curator.com. And I'd love to connect with everybody out there.
I love all that. Our biggest area of focus as it relates to reviews and subscribes is Apple Podcasts. So if you enjoyed this discussion with Darren and I, please drop a 5-star review, drop a comment. We would love to know what you're hearing out there in other podcasts that might be relevant to you, and further what you enjoyed about this podcast. So please leave a review. For my guest, Darren Franzen of Curator, I'm Kyle Malnati, and as I love to say, we will see you around the neighborhood. Bye, everybody. See you later.